Good evening. I'm calling this meeting to order. The time is 5:30 p.m. This is a special meeting. In accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551, this meeting is officially open with a quorum present. Our first order of business will be to enter into executive session in the back for legal advice.
ground. But I knew I could find a way to push through every word that said I grew strong. I knew right from wrong, and now I feel it too. I'm alive, yeah, I'm alive. I'm alive, yeah, I'm alive.
The board is now reconvened in open session at 5:58 PM in the board conference room with a quorum present. Agenda item 4A is to consider the Level 3 grievance of Heather Leaf against a trustee and related complaints concerning campus administration. We are in the board conference room, and we will hear this grievance in open session as requested by Trustee Paz pursuant to Section 551074B of the Texas Government Code. This hearing is being conducted during a duly called meeting of the Fort Worth Independent School District Board of Trustees convened on Tuesday, January 8th, 2019. I am Toby Jackson, Board President. For the record, a quorum is present. The following board members are present: Dr. Ann Sutherland, Christine Moss, Anaya Luebanos, Judy Needham, Norman Robbins, Dr. T.A. Sims, and Jacinto Ramos. Also present is Heather Castillo, an attorney who may advise the board on legal issues related to the grievance. In accordance with board policy, the board will not tolerate disruption of a meeting by audience members. If a person continues to disrupt a meeting after at least one warning from the presiding officer may request the assistance of law enforcement to have the person removed. The board asks everyone in attendance to please be quiet and respectful of all parties, and the board so that the parties' presentations and the board's deliberations can be conducted without disruption or distraction. Ms. Leaf, would you please state your name for the record and introduce your representative, if any?
My name is Heather Leaf. This is my friend Sally Gouldy.
Will the individual responding on behalf of Trustee Ashley Paz please state your name?
I'm Lynn Rossi Scott. I'm an attorney with Brackett and Ellis, and I'm here representing Ashley Paz. And I would like to correct the record, if you don't mind, Ms. Jackson. Ms. Paz is in attendance at the board meeting. You didn't, I don't believe you have her listed.
That's true. Thank you. She was not listed. Thank you. I will now ask each member of this board whether he or she is able to serve as an impartial member of this body and arrive at a decision based solely upon the documents and information submitted to this board regarding this matter and information presented at this meeting. Any member not able to serve should say so now and ask to be excused. A recording of this hearing must be made. Please avoid talking when others are speaking so that the recording will reflect the proceedings accurately. This hearing will be conducted as follows. Ms. Leaf and Ms. Scott will each have a total of 10 minutes to make their presentations to the board. This is not a formal legal proceeding. No strict rules of evidence or procedure will apply. There is no cross-examination. The board is not required to consider documentation or claims not previously submitted or issues not previously raised. There will be an opportunity for board members to ask questions. However, board members are not subject to questioning by the grievant, Ms. Paz, or legal counsel. As the grievant, Ms. Leaf, you will present first. Who's keeping time?
Ms. Rincon?
Ms. Cynthia Rincon will keep the time for the presentations and will notify you when you have 2 minutes remaining, or would you prefer some other minute marker?
That's fine.
Thank you. Any time remaining of your 10 minutes after your initial presentation can be used by you for rebuttal after Ms. Scott's response. Ms. Scott's presentation will follow Ms. Leaf's initial presentation. Ms. Scott, Ms. Rincon will notify you when you have 2 minutes remaining. Any time remaining of your 10 minutes after your initial response can be used by you for rebuttal after Ms. Leaf's rebuttal. Following the presentations, the board will meet in closed session with its attorney to seek and receive legal advice in this room. The board will then return to open session to deliberate regarding the grievance. Does anyone have any questions or initial procedural matters that need to be discussed?
Ms. Jackson, this is Lynn Rossi Scott. I do have a couple of procedural matters. We have a recusal request, and we have a request that certain complaints that were just brought forward on January 3rd be removed from the grievance consideration.
Where are those complaints?
You want to go ahead and go through those?
I'd be
and-
happy to, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
As for the recusal, as you know, the board was admonished that they are only to consider the information that they're hearing today. So we do ask that boards who have had, any board members who have had ongoing conversations with either party or their representatives related to the details of this grievance, that they recuse themselves. I understand you will consult with legal counsel about that. Related to the additional allegations and additional relief requests submitted by Mrs. Leaf on January 3rd, we've had no time to respond to those new false allegations. They're all made outside of your strict policy guidelines. Your policies require that allegations be presented within 15 days of when a grievant has knowledge. That did not occur related to a number of Mrs. Leaf's allegations, even if we're being generous and we include in her very general allegations some of the specific complaints. So specifically, we object to the following. We object to the new allegation that there was a delay in the dyslexia program. That was not in Ms. Leaf's grievance. It was in her comments in the Fort Worth Weekly article. And we did provide a document that disputed her statements, but we've not had an opportunity to fully respond to that new allegation. There's a great deal more we could present. We are absolutely willing to agree to remove our document that we submitted related to that, if you will remove that complaint from the grievance. Likewise, we ask you to remove Mrs. Leaf's 2017 email related to the school-to-prison pipeline related to dyslexia. She clearly had that document before she presented the grievance. She did not submit it with her grievance, and we ask that it be excluded. Likewise, Mrs. Leaf did not mention in her grievance any complaint about a principal's ability or inability to attend Montessori training during the summer. That decision was final on July 4th. The grievance was filed on August 8th. So there was plenty of time to include that in the grievance if it was going to be included. It was not, therefore it should be excluded tonight. We did include one document related to that in our supplemental briefing. Again, we are fine with you removing that document if you will remove that complaint. Likewise, Mrs. Leaf did not mention in her grievance any complaints about her Public Information Act request and the district's response to it, or Ms. Sally Gild's Public Information Act request and the district's response to it. We don't even have any knowledge about that, so we can't even respond to that. We also object to Ms. Leaf's allegation that Mrs. Paz actively spread damaging rumors. That's a quote after an August 1 meeting. We had not heard that until January 3rd. We don't know what she's talking about, and we cannot respond to it. Likewise, we object to any inclusion or complaint about Mrs. Paz's attendance at campus meetings after August 1st. We don't know what she's complaining about. They were not included in her grievance. We also object to the inclusion of a November 2018 social media discussion that is far beyond the date of the grievance. To the extent we've attempted any efforts to defend Mrs. Paz against these new attacks, we are willing to remove those documents in order to make this the same on both sides. We've already been dealing with very vague allegations in the grievance. We are willing to accept some things. You may be aware, I had complained to Ms. Castillo about a number of other things that I did not believe were in the original grievance. Ms. Castillo had a different opinion on some of those, some very vague things such as a privacy violation. Now, as of January 3rd, we know what that is. We're not objecting to those. We're willing to accept that. We're just looking at these very specific things that clearly were not in the grievance at all. As to the additional request for relief, the same thing. You're bound by your original grievance. You don't get to add additional requests for relief at this late date. We are not prepared to respond to those additional requests for relief, and we ask that the board remove those also. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Leaf, do you have any concerns that you'd like to state?
No, can I respond to that?
Yes.
I can, okay. So clearly, I would just like to state for all of you that I am a parent in this district. I am not an attorney. I never have gotten counsel on how to file a grievance. I didn't know that you had to file every single item that you had a complaint against. And so what I would like to have you all consider is the fact that F&G Local just simply states that complaints arising out of an event or a series of related events shall be addressed in one complaint. That means that when I filed this complaint, behavior and misbehavior continued to happen, and I would like for you all to consider all of the circumstances that I'm talking about this evening. There's quite a lot, and I think it's fair for you guys to consider this. I am a parent of a dyslexic child. You know who I am, and that is my story, and I will tell it. I will tell it tonight, and I will tell it every night, because that is my work. That is what I do. And so I'm asking you to hear my entire complaint. You can judge accordingly. As far as the remedies to this, I don't pretend to have the answers for that. But what I know is there has been a lot of misaction by Ms. Paz. She has done some very highly inappropriate things, and I'm asking each of you to deliberate, and you decide what's fair in this situation. I don't have the answers for that.
Do you have any specific responses to the objections? Or that's your response?
You could read these two.
We'll get to the presentations in a minute, but I wanted,
I think you asked that. I think you read these two.
Okay, I'm going kind of blind.
Go read that.
Okay. I have asked whether Trustee Paz would be allowed to participate in or to be present during the board's closed deliberations on the outcome of my grievance.
the deliberations are going to be in open.
Okay. Give me just 1 minute, please. She will not have a vote, is that correct?
I don't think she intends to do that, no.
Okay.
I've recused myself from any deliberations before tonight and will do so tonight as well.
Great.
Thank you. And then with regard to, well,
Right here.
is that all?
First, when you received these additional documents from when did you get the received documents from Ms. Paz that I got yesterday?
May I object?
Yeah,
This
I-
isn't an opportunity for Mrs. Leaf to question you. This is an opportunity for her to respond to my objections.
I agree. Let's just say this.
No, it's all right.
We agree.
I'll say for the record, and I've also addressed with Ms. Leaf the additional remedies that were added, that I would be advising the board that we're not going to consider those additional requested remedies. But I think the board now will move to closed session under 551071.
At this time, the board will move to closed session to consult with the board's attorney pursuant to Section 551071 of the Texas Government Code. you ready? The time is now 6:25 PM on January the 8th, 2019. We are back in open session to consider the Level 3 grievance of Ms. Heather Leaf. I will at this time hand it off to Board Counsel Heather Castillo.
Okay, on the objections made by, and we want to go ahead and have the parties sit here. We're gonna, we'll move back and forth. Okay.
Do you need time to go get those?
No, not from this one.
Yes, ma'am.
The presentation, the 10-minute presentations will be back there.
No, we're gonna,
She needs to go get her material.
yes.
We're going to move out here for comfort of the audience.
Okay, so the board has considered the objections made by Ms. Scott regarding these topics that are new, that were presented or submitted on January 3rd by Ms. Leaf. And I think with regard to all 8 of the topics listed, Ms. Scott, the delay in the dyslexia program, 2017 email, the Montessori training, the LEAF and Gould PIAs, anything after August 1, I guess comments made after an August 1 meeting that aren't, if they're not specific, attendance at campus meetings after August 1, if not specific, and then a November social media discussion. The board will agree to not consider those things and will remove, I guess there were 2 documents, I think, that we'll get those removed from the record here. Ms. Leaf, do you understand?
I understand. I have a question, though.
Oh, okay.
Regarding all 8 of those items, would I then refile a complaint to have those complaints heard?
I would, with regard to any of that, it would have to be a timely complaint, but,
Well, I was understanding that those complaints should be heard according to the F&G policy that I referenced, that those should be compiled. No one told me otherwise.
I think out of fairness, anything that's, if it's not been something that has been at least somewhere on the radar for Ms. Paz and her attorney to be able to respond to, those are the things that the
Let me be
board-
clear, though. We're talking about a public information violation, a major public information violation that is just not going to be heard.
There are other avenues for that, but.
Okay, can you
for the-
tell me what those avenues would be?
No, not during this grievance hearing.
Okay.
But those are.
But you're saying those might be heard somewhere else?
That would be,
I don't have an attorney. I need to know what I'm supposed to do about my complaint.
And we must object to Ms. Leaf seeking legal advice from the board's legal counsel.
Okay.
Can't do that.
so with regard to the objections, those are granted on the new topics. Let's see, so we're ready to go forward with the hearing, and then those topics that I listed, those are things that during the course of your presentation, you won't be able to discuss those topics.
I'm just going to read my speech, and you can, I don't mention specifics.
Okay. So you want to go to your,
Just make sure, Ms. Leaf, you're very clear that of those 8 items, they will not be in what you call your speech, correct, ma'am?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we got
Ms.
that
Leaf,
established.
you may proceed with your presentation, and your 10 minutes will begin now.
Good evening, Board. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight involving my concerns with Trustee Paz. This is my friend Sally Gouldy, as you know, and she has witnessed a lot of what we're here to discuss, and I am Heather Leaf. I never set out to pick a fight with Miss Ashley Paz, and as you know, I am a strong supporter of hers. I have been in the past. Our children attend a school in District 9 where she serves as school board trustee, and I advocate for children with dyslexia. My only agenda was to help bring additional resources to support our struggling readers. Our school leads the district in identified dyslexic students, and I saw that as an opportunity to do a campus-wide pilot program specifically geared to further the district's reading initiative.
that's,
This is my story. I have to tell you how I got to my grievance. I am a parent, and this is my story, and this is how I came to my grievance.
You don't have to punish her for it, but
Okay.
let her say it.
It is how I got here.
we'll discuss this in legal, with legal advice as to what kind of weight we can give that.
Not only did our principal support this idea, okay, let me back up. I'm sorry, I skipped a line. The program representative insisted that our support come from our principal. Not only did our principal support this idea, she pursued the district to get the approval necessary moving forward, careful to avoid any potential delays. From fundraising to district approval, which came on the very last day of school, we spent 1 year getting this program in place. June 20th, our principal was told she was being moved, forcing us to delay the program. In the months leading up to June 20th, Ashley Paz, along with her close friend, manipulated parents and teachers to wage a war on our campus in an effort to remove our principal. Thankfully, after a 3-week investigation addressing all teacher and parent concerns, Dr. Scribner and senior leaders reinstated our principal. It was only after hearing new threats of Paz's intention to remove our principal and her involvement in campus meetings that I decided to file this grievance. One of my goals tonight is to show you that Ms. Paz has a personal vendetta against our administration. But what Ms. Paz has told you in her submission does that so far better than I ever could. She has mishandled information provided her in her official role, and she continues to spew outrageous lies against our administration, teachers, and parents. It would take many hours for us to unpack all of the false statements in her submission to you. So I can only hit the high points here. I think you will see that if you cannot trust Ms. Paz to tell the truth about the most easily verifiable facts, it's hard to take her word on anything. First, I want to point out one specific misrepresentation from her statement that gives us some insight into her state of mind. We were all here June 26th at the board meeting when a number of our parents and teachers from DMS took the microphone to speak in praise of our principal. When Ms. Paz describes that night in here, she says, "We spoke against her." If you were here that night, you know that's truly false. I encourage you to go back, review those comments on YouTube. You'll see that no one ever mentioned Ashley Paz while they praised our principal and our district. I think it's telling that she remembers those statements as, quote, against Ashley Paz. When she was so dead set against our principal, she heard any praise of our principal as condemnation on her, even when her name was not mentioned. Because my time is so limited, I encourage you to do a little bit of research. There's much to uncover here, and we have only begun to scratch the surface. On page 1 of her statement, Trustee Paz claims that there is a TEA investigation into the conduct of our assistant principal regarding 8th grade math STAR testing. That is totally false. Just yesterday, I personally verified with one phone call, and I have the email from a district employee to confirm it. I would encourage you all, the board, to ask Ms. Paz, where did she receive her false information? She calls students and teachers by name in her statement. She gives bogus reasons for why they left DMS. I've spoken to parents and teachers in an attempt to find the truth, and they were stunned by the lies that Ashley Paz tells about them in this document, in her document. She claims that our administration violated the law by not providing proper amounts of recess. Read that law. Look into it. It is not even close. In a moment's research, she could have known the answer to that. Paz claims that 2 longtime high-quality teachers were applying for other jobs due to their negative experiences with our principal. That, too, is a lie. Both of those teachers have made statements and testify in support of our principal. One received a promotion and continues to work on our campus. The other would have stayed had she known Delgado was staying. These facts are easy to check. As you review her document, please note that when Trustee Paz stretches and even invents facts, it's always in one direction, to slander our administration at DMS, as well as parents and teachers. Anyone who does not agree with her. Reading her account, hearing her talk about the extensive teacher dissatisfaction, you would never know that the vast majority of our teachers are in support and have spoken out in support of our principal. Everything that I've talked about tonight is from her documentation. She provided this Thursday. I stand behind every word of my submission and my grievance, many points of which are supported by Paz's own documents. Trustee Paz has abused her position by misusing confidential information, improperly influencing campus-level management, giving misinformation to the press, and much more. Her conduct has harmed and continues to harm campuses, our campus, both in delaying a reading program and injuring parent and teacher morale. Members of the board, Trustee Paz wants you to be afraid of me. She says here that if you vote against her, then what's to stop parents like me from coming after you? To that, I can only say, please do not act like Ashley Paz. Please do not call your principals idiots and vow to get rid of them. Please do not brag to your friends that a principal in your district is, quote, gone and she doesn't know it yet. Please don't spread the rumor that your principals are not going to last the year. Please do not forward private district emails to your friends. Please do not use your trusted position, your insider access to personal information, as a weapon to fuel whisper campaigns against personnel. Please do not give newspaper interviews saying that your principals have made mistakes when they have not. Please don't pass along information before you have verified that it's true, destroying your credibility and someone else's reputation. In short, please act like professionals who are worthy of the public's trust, and you will have nothing to worry about. Ashley Paz repeatedly tells you in this document, in her words, that she, as a trustee and a parent, has, quote, superior rights to other parents in this district. Please help her understand that her status as a trustee is not about her superior rights, but her superior obligations. I'll reserve the rest of my time. Thank you.
Ms. Leaf, you have 1 minute left. Ms. Scott, you may now begin.
Board members, Superintendent Scribner, let me object to the inclusion of the dyslexia program materials that you asked Ms. Leaf not to include. As you know, my name is Lynn Rossi Scott. I've been a school lawyer representing school districts for 33 years. It's my honor to represent Ashley Paz related to this complaint. In my 33 years, I've seen a lot. What you're dealing with tonight's not unusual. How you handled it is. When I was a new attorney, a school board member told me that as a school board member, he lost a third of his friends the first year, a third of his friends the second year, and by that third year, he didn't have any friends left. That's not unusual, and you may have experienced that yourselves. The public perception is that as a school board member, you have a powerful say in what happens in the schools. So people try to influence you to do what they want you to do. If you don't do what they want you to do, then they distance themselves from you, or like this, they put up a huge fight. However, what your friends do not realize is that as a school board member, you have limits. You can only act as a body corporate. No individual member has any power. The board's job is to make policy, hire, and evaluate the superintendent. And when it comes to superintendent decisions, your job is to support those decisions. When problems arise, it's not your job to go in there and fix them themselves. It's your job to tell administration every time there's a problem so that administration can fix it. That may come in the form of you notifying administration or directing others to do so. And that's what happened here. At all times, Ashley Paz acted within her board member role. I've given you an extensive chronology of events with her actions noted in italics, so you can see the serious issues that arose and how she handled them. Every single time, she either supported or attempted to explain central administration decisions, including to Mrs. Leaf. She directed individuals to the campus administration to resolve their concerns. If that did not work, then she directed them to higher level administration, or she personally informed administration of concerns so that administration could handle them. She never violated any law, and you know that. She never attempted to go on campus and take over management. She never directed campus administration on any actions to take. She never personally investigated any of the concerns. She did as she was supposed to do. She told or made sure that administration was aware. Now, make no mistake, there were lots of problems, and parents and teachers are divided, as you can see tonight. So how did Ms. Paz repeatedly have to ensure that the administration was aware of problems? Yes, she did, because that's her job. She wasn't trying to get rid of anyone. That wasn't the issue. She was trying to do her job in the face of many complaints that were being ignored or not resolved. Did she wage a campaign against campus administration? No. How do we know that? We know that because she never initiated any of the many complaints. They were not her personal complaints. They were the complaints of others that she directed to administration. So could administration have felt pressured to do something about those things? Sure, of course they felt pressured to do something about those things. But that doesn't mean she improperly directed them on what to do. This board, under Lone Star governance, adopted goals and constraints for the superintendent. You know how important those are. One of those constraints is that the superintendent will not allow a low level of campus satisfaction. The constraint relies on the knowledge that the single biggest influence on students is the teacher in the classroom. So when Ms. Paz began receiving multiple complaints from employees, from excellent employees, she was duty-bound to notify administration. When she received complaints from parents, that too impacts campus culture, and she made sure that administration was aware of those, which was also proper. So if you look at the allegations made by Ms. Leaf, the vast majority are about intemperate words that she alleges Ms. Paz used. But read them carefully. Mrs. Leaf never heard Mrs. Paz say that she wanted to get rid of any employee. She relies on hearsay for the vast majority of her allegations. And while Ms. Paz denies saying the things that Ms. Leaf has come out here and said tonight, the reality is, even if she did say them, she's got a First Amendment right. You don't lose your First Amendment right as a board member. You can still express opinions, both as a citizen on a matter of public concern and as a board member expressing opinions. Her other allegation is a privacy violation in the forwarding of one email. That individual's contact information was public directory information located in the school directory. 3 times, as a matter of fact. Further, she represented herself as PTA president and for speaking for the PTA without authority to do so. So Ms. Paz forwarded that to the then PTA president, who already had all of the sender's directory information. This circus of a meeting likewise was unnecessary, as was any investigation. All you as a board had to do with a grievance is stop, look, and listen. That's all you have to do. That would have cost you nothing in attorney's fees, time, or drama, and it would have let that campus calm down. So what is this grievance about? It's not really about Ms. Paz exceeding her authority. It's about Ms. Leaf protecting a friend. While that is admirable, she has gone overboard. In doing so, she's accused a parent of playing the race card rather than acknowledging the parent's valid discrimination concerns. She's told parents and employees they should not feel the way they feel about what's happening on campus. Here she is attempting in yet another way to protect her friend from what may very well be a minority of people, but they have valid concerns, and the minority has a right to be heard. She's not complaining about Ms. Paz exceeding her authority. How do we know that? Because Ms. Leaf had no problem asking Mrs. Paz to act outside her board authority and influence the decision of who would get to be the principal for that campus. She only complains when she doesn't do what she wants her to do. She accuses Mrs. Paz of orchestrating a campaign against a principal, but she doesn't mention her own secret meetings, her own letter-writing campaigns, her own phone trees, her own contacting people to attend board meetings, her statements to the media. That is a campaign, and it caused chaos on that campus, as you can see. The unfortunate impact could be what she wanted all along, to silence the voices of those who just asked that their valid concerns be addressed and who were so frustrated when they weren't addressed. So ask yourself, at what point does that privilege exercised by a vocal few negate the rights of others to seek resolution of their concerns? The bottom line is that Ms. Leaf is upset that Ms. Paz does not express the same opinion she does. However, she can't force any individual to think the way she does. Ms. Paz has an absolute right to her own opinions and to take all actions required of board members. As long as she's an elected trustee, neither you nor this board have the authority to get rid of her. You are single-member district trustees. She is the trustee for that campus, and she is a parent on that campus. She has not acted outside of either role, and you cannot remove her from either role. So let's face it, you have no authority to do any of the things that Ms. Leaf asked you to do in your grievance. You cannot remove her as the trustee for that campus. You cannot assign a new trustee to that campus. You cannot prevent Mrs. Paz from attending meetings to which she's invited. You can't create a policy that prevents trustees from expressing their own opinions. You cannot remove someone from a PTA office. So you may be thinking, okay, we've got no authority to do anything, but let's go ahead and sanction Mrs. Paz. You may disagree with her politically and decide this is an opportunity to attack her because of that. Let me tell you why that's such a bad idea. You don't have any authority to do any of the things that Ms. Leaf's asked you to do. If this is truly a grievance about a board member's authority, then you cannot turn around and act outside of your authority as a board member just to appease a vocal parent. The really unfortunate thing about this situation is it can happen to any board member at any time. As you make decisions in your role, when you're doing your job, you will upset people who think differently than you. You've now set an unfortunate precedent that if a parent complains about a trustee, then the board will conduct an expensive investigation, provide a dramatic circus of a public hearing about that trustee. If you sanction Mrs. Paz, then you will empower everyone to come forward with concerns about board member conduct. If you've ever listened to or sympathized with a constituent, referred a concern to administration, said something negative about any employee, suggested that any employee would serve better somewhere else, supported a decision made by the superintendent, none of which are improper, then you've set yourself up to have a similar complaint against you. If you've ever improperly directed the administration take a specific management action, that was wrong, and the time to reform is now. That's why you must overlook politics, respect your boundaries, and deny this grievance on its merits. I urge you to use this instance as a lesson. Stop this now. Send the message that you as a board will not continue to allow the creation of a circus atmosphere, pitting parents against board members, pitting board members against board members, and allowing that fight to overshadow the good, very difficult work you do as trustees. I urge you to deny this grievance in its entirety. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
For the record, Ms. Scott, 34 seconds remaining. Ms. Leaf, you have 1 minute remaining to present rebuttal.
I believe Ms. Paz has become a liability to this district. She's willing to invent stories, spread unfounded rumors to try to remove our administrator. In fact, both of them. Trustee Paz's submission to you today included a handful of names who she says were unsatisfied with the administration's response to student concerns. We were able to reach out to only 3. All 3 denied the statements in her submission. All 3. That should ask you what is valid in this book right here. As to the management issues, I would refer you to page 8 in this document. I read that whole excerpt on her. I can see that as a parent. She had overstepped. She got out of her lane, is what her phrase is. She gets out of her lane, and she does influence the decisions of senior leadership. I would also ask you, if she referred every single one of those parents and teachers, where are the emails to prove it?
Thank you. Ms. Scott, you have your 34 seconds remaining to present rebuttal.
Ms. Paz is not a liability to the district. She is a honorable board member who serves as she is supposed to serve. When there are concerns, whether they are from a majority of the parents on a campus or a minority of the parents on the campus, she makes sure that administration hears about those concerns. That is her duty, and that is what she did, and the rest of this is just false. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, does the board have any questions of either of the parties? Seeing and hearing none, this concludes the hearing portion of this proceeding. At this time, the board will move into the board conference room for closed session. And 551-071 of the Texas Government Code. The board will then reconvene into open session to deliberate and take action, if any. There's been new information presented by trustee Paz, and under 551071, we will go back into closed session at this time.
Let me say for the record, if you don't mind, that trustee Paz does not object to you deliberating in closed session.
Trustee Paz presented new information, which is she does not object to us deliberating in closed session. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
The board is now in open session. The date is January 8th, 2019. The time is 7:13 PM. Ms. Needham, do you have a motion?
I move to waive the privilege of the Hill report.
I second.
Moved by trustee Needham, seconded by trustee Sutherland. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, please move to voting as soon as our motion and second is. And the motion passes 6 yeas, 2 nays. The nays coming from trustee Ramos and trustee Robbins. At this time, the board and the board's attorney will now recess again to executive session. The board conference room is authorized by Texas Government Code 551071 to seek and receive, first, legal advice regarding the hearing process and procedural steps, plus 551.074 to deliberate on this grievance.
Don't you feel it too? I'm alive. Yeah, I'm alive. I'm alive. Yeah, I'm alive. I love every moment with you, and I want you to know I do. I'm alive. Yeah, I'm alive.
The time is 7:57 PM on January the 8th. This board is back in open session. Do I have a motion on this grievance? I'm sorry, Mr. Robbins has made a motion.
I didn't see the motion.
Yeah, and Mr. Robbins has moved, trustee Moss has seconded.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, her screen's covered.
Thank you, President Jackson. I move that this board disallow the grievance before us.
And moved by trustee Norman Robbins, seconded by trustee Christine Moss. We are now waiting for the computer to catch up with the humans, which is a unique situation. And the motion fails. 5-3. Dr. Sutherland?
I move we censure trustee Paz and ask for additional training, not only for her, but for all trustees who feel they need it after the election.
Moved by trustee Dr. Ann Sutherland, seconded by trustee Judy Needham. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, please, trustee Moss? Thank you.
Jackson.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, President Jackson.
Yes, ma'am.
I guess I really didn't have to attend this hearing to know the outcome, because sometimes every school board trustee sitting here on this 9 single-member board need to take this as a wake-up call. I did some talking earlier, but what I want to say is, board trustees, you should not make decisions on personal vendettas. You should make decisions on being a professional board trustee. And what this has come down to, the same voting we did when we did the president election. I won't forget that. And it's down those same lines, personal vendettas. And you can say what you want. It doesn't bother me what you say, because no one ever touched me. So I just want you to know that this is a personal vendetta. And I think board members that need governance training should attend governance training, because this is all this is. This is governance training. And that's why I told Dr. Sutherland not to say all board members attend governance training, because I have more governance training than just about any board member here, because I was doing governance training over the years. So we use the Lone Star governance training, and we've been following that and doing very well. So those trustees that need governance training, I encourage you to attend. But all this is a personal vendetta. And I just want to say to my colleagues on the board, you know, I'm going to say what's right and what I think. Sometimes you do what you do. And board trustees, we're not above the law, and we're not above parents and our administrators. That's why we're here. We're here to serve, but still we're here to be board trustees. And when one of us need training, we need to say, you know, you need a little training. But this is just a personal vendetta, and I know it. So whoever else wants to speak, go ahead and speak, and we'll vote.
I would like to
Trustee
speak
Sutherland?
on that. I take exception to the idea that it be a personal vendetta. I especially wanted an outside impartial investigation of this situation, because I felt it was very serious, and I was afraid that if we went ahead and did something or didn't do anything without some outside independent evaluation, that it would be criticized as being a personal vendetta. And I think that it shows a certain, the finding of the researcher is now available. It's 21 single pages. I think you will see if you look at it that there was a lot of review, and most of the allegations that were made were denied on the basis of insufficient corroboration. But the overarching issue of involvement in areas that the investigator found improper was established. So if people want to say it's a personal vendetta, they can, but I hope you'll point out the fact that we asked for this independent thing because we did not want it to be personal, which I felt was very important. And I don't know how to say that very elegantly. I really kind of resent your idea that we'd had a personal vendetta. It seems to me that some people that say that, sometimes I wonder if they ever make independent decisions. Thank you.
I'm the one that said it, so Dr. Sutherland, don't sit here and think I don't make independent decisions, because that's what I'm doing tonight. And, you know, you don't have to agree with me, but this is personal. And you, Dr. Sutherland, of all individuals, all board members sitting here have violated policies. And you, of all persons, should know about violating policies, because you've done it over and over and over again.
Well, I invite you
And
to
that's all I
send me
have
a
to
written
say.
statement.
You've done it at South Hills, you've done it over and over and over.
You don't
When
know what
board
you're
members
talking
go out and want to have meetings with teachers and that's it for Chris.
Thank you, Trustee Moss. Thank you, Trustee Sutherland. Trustee Jacinto Ramos, please.
Well, as always, Mrs. Moss, you've inspired me to say a couple of words. I admire your courage and your willingness to speak truth to power in situations that just doesn't feel right. And I think that my overall comment is that whether or not people agree that we've set a precedent on how this was handled, that's exactly what I believe has happened. That the way this situation in particular, I think that a grievance was supposed to have been heard long ago. And in saying that, we should have just let the process play itself out in the way that it was designed. The second that we went to an investigation type of a scenario, we made it bigger than what it should have been, as far as we should have just stuck to the policy. And because that's not how things on this board have been handled, the perception that things are grand and glorious on our board is important to all of us. But as we see tonight, things like this happen when we don't stick to Lone Star governance, when we step out of our lanes in whatever role and whatever position we have. And that's what I'm hoping will change, as Mrs. Moss has suggested, a wake-up call for all current board members and all incoming board members, that we adopt a new way of doing business to really update it to what 2019 looks like in a state of access to technology, social media, that we're going to continue to have more people come onto this board, be vocal, have strong opinions. And yet, if we stick to Lone Star governance, it's a framework that's designed to allow the superintendent and his administration to do what they need to get done. As I've heard everything tonight, and I've read every page in the packets, it's really unfortunate how we've gotten to this point. My overall argument is that I feel that we're going to become a case study for boards across the country on how to and how not to handle situations. And I know that because, as I expressed to my colleagues, it's part of my dissertation for my doctoral program, and I'm literally reading this packet thinking we are way outside the lines of what people have done across the country. And there's much to brag about in Fort Worth ISD, but the adult behavior that is coined by A.J. Crable speaks very loudly to me tonight, that student outcomes won't change until adult behaviors change. I have spent a dinner away from my family on adult issues that I hope get resolved, that I hope healing can happen, that good things can happen at Daggett Montessori, because we've got over 86,000 students and 86,000 souls that we're responsible for. Not to minimize anybody's complaints or anybody's issues, the reality is this is not how we should have been here. This should have been done a long time ago.
Thank you, Trustee Ramos. Trustee Needham?
I just want to say that in reading all the documents, I learned a good bit about the Montessori method. A main tenet principle is grace and courtesy. And I hope we all leave here tonight with that in mind, and that we are friends, and let this be done on a professional scale. I had the principal, Mrs. Delgado, at my school for several years before she went to Daggett Montessori, and she did an excellent professional job. It's well liked by all. I never heard from a person. And I hope that the parents will come together and support her, and the administration will do their job. Thank you.
And on that note, Dr. Sutherland, would you like to repeat your motion?
Yes. I hope I said the same thing the second time. I move we censure Trustee Paz and ask for additional training, not only for her, but for all trustees who feel they need it.
It's moved by Dr. Sutherland, seconded by Trustee Needham. Please move to voting. Any discussion further before we move to voting? Let's move to voting. We've got one vote missing. Ms. Needham, is your machine working? And the motion passes 5 yeas, 3 nays. The nays from trustees Moss, Ramos, and Robbins. And on that note, we are adjourned.